Greetings, Keishlings. Keishan Prime here with my review of One Piece, Chapter 880, No Way Out, which, oh god, that no way out at the end. Well, there's probably a way. You know, I mean, the Straw Hats aren't going to all die at once, right? Or half of them, I guess, at this point. But anyway, chapter starts off, you know, we have Sai's little arc for the cover story. And yeah, we find out that his former fiance, has been married 26 times and has a husband club of all of her. It never specified if they are current husbands, you know, is it polygamy, or ex-husbands, which then, why are they still doing this? They were serving her in a club. So that was weird. But, mostly, from there, we get our little cake group have made it to Chocolate Town, and they're being greeted by the townspeople, and they're like, "Oh, Lady Pudding, we're so sorry about what happened at the wedding," and everything. It's like, that cake, and it's like, and they're like, "Oh, but the fluffy minister," which turns out to be Chiffon's position. So that's been figured out now. But Pudding vouches for her. It's like, she's not the culprit. It was her husband, Capone, and the Straw Hats. So that's being somewhat cleared up. She's not to blame. And they had like this thing that they'll have her handcuffed just to kind of have like a little bit of, hey, I'm taking her in. She's helping me make this cake because her husband's a bastard. But, from there, also, last week's chapter showed Pudding hiding up in the rolled up bit of Arabian, which we don't see Sanji until they make it further into the chapter. So it's kind of like a hint of how he was going to get past the townspeople, because obviously the townspeople know the wedding went awry. But anyway, that one, and we're seeing a bunch of people we've seen previously in Chocolate Town, like I guess the mayor, cop, or whatever he is. It's like they had heard the story, you know, that the wedding was dashed and about the revolt and all that, and it's like, it was such a harrowing day for you. Excuse me. And also that, you know, Mama flown into a rage, and Pudding's like, yeah, it very well might destroy the country. But it's like, have the arrangements been made? And the 31 chefs arrived just an hour before. Which then makes you wonder, how long ago has this been, how long did the last few chapters take? Which, manga time, am I right? I mean, multiple weeks of a manga can take only an hour. So they're in town. Everyone's kind of worried about how this affected Pudding, and she's like, leave it to me. I'll make sure she doesn't destroy the country, and everyone's all happy about it. And we get to see the 31 chefs, the Whole Cake Island's 31 chefs, or WCI 31. Lady Pudding, we've begun the initial preparations and all that, and we go to the Chocolate Town Sweets Factory, and Pudding's up on the front step, and it's like, everyone, I request of you, please don't peek. And if anyone else shows up, don't let them peek either. This is to hide Sanji, because obviously, you know. But, I don't really know how, given that Big Mom will possibly make it to this island, you know. But how are they going to stop her? I mean, these are just regular townsfolk. I mean, sure, the Straw Hats might be there too, but they barely survived her as it is. How do you expect anybody to hold her off? And, you know, they're all cheering, best of luck, and she's like, yeah, now Sanji won't be spotted, and she tells the chefs to come in one at a time. They start announcing their names, and then she takes out their memories. Sanji comes out of his hiding spot from inside the factory. He reveals, while wrapped up, somehow he did a very detailed diagram of the cake, which how he even saw enough of it, who knows. But And Chiffon's obviously surprised. You remembered all that? And he's like, more or less. She starts looking at it and just amazed by it. It's like, how did you get all these ingredients and stuff? And he's like, by smell. So nonchalant while lighting up a cig. Yeah, by smell. Which you would think, given that he's a smoker, he wouldn't have that good of sense of smell. Because I think that is a thing, isn't it? And Chiffon's obviously freaked out by that. And then we see little Chef Pudding, and she's like, every minute counts. And Sanji freaks out because she looks so cute. And then she passes out. She was a lot more tolerable in this chapter. She only had one of those mean moments where she's like trying to keep up the fake act, which at this point, I don't know why she's trying to keep it up, you know? But, you know, and the chefs are calling Sanji Mr. Husband. And that's when it's revealed to Chiffon and Sanji to why that is. When she was taking out their memories, she took out everything from, like, where right before the wedding went haywire to the present moment. So they have no idea of the Straw Hats and Beige's destruction of the cake, and the wedding, as far as they know, went off without a hitch. And that the cake was destroyed because of bad weather, and Mama's pissed, and they have to make it up real quick. And that's their story, but luckily they do have memories from helping make the original cake, so that'll be useful. And they start looking over the diagram, and they're like, you made this? We knew you had some skill, Mr. Husband, but, you know, this is something else. You've done what Streusen took a week to do to make certain flavors. And then one of the chefs is like, oh, this will be your first cooperative task as a married couple. And Sanji's like, yeah, that's nice, huh? And Pudding falls over in flames like the frickin', what was it called? The Hindenburg. And obviously they don't understand why she's doing that. So they go to check on her, and they're calling her Mrs. Pudding. Mrs. Vinsmoke would have been a bit more on the nose, don't you think? And Chiffon's like, no, don't do that. And she's still freaking out. And then she goes evil. And it's like, don't you try bossing me around, husband. Or I'll strangle you, Sanji. And, you know, Sanji's like, just get me these items, you know, milk, sugar beets, bananas, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, and lots of the yolk, and lots of it. And it's like, Roger. And they run off to do that. It's a race against the clock. And Sanji starts divvying up the task. Chiffon will be baking the chiffon cake. Pudding will be dealing with the chocolate. And he hopes that both of them can do this task in 2 hours 40 minutes. And then from there he'll be putting in a secret plan. Whatever that secret plan is, he does mention at some point in this chapter attack cooking. So I'm wondering if it's going to be like a knockout, you know, like a tranquilizer kind of thing to put into the cake or something. I don't know. Anyway, and he'll show the true face of sweetness and send them to a sweet paradise. But and obviously Pudding's like, what? True face of sweetness. But from there, like, some of the chefs are obviously freaked out that they won't have enough time, and he's like, we're going to get this done in 3 hours. We're going to bake the cake in 2 hours 40 minutes, put it on the ship, and then while they're out at sea, they'll be doing the decorations and stuff. And Chiffon's like, yeah, no time wasted. And the chefs are like, that's rushed. And Chiffon's like, we don't have a choice. Mama's gonna pound this island into the ground. But then they have their own little motivations. Like Chiffon wants to help the people that saved her sister. Sanji wants to, you know, obviously save his friends and show off his attack cooking, as I mentioned before. And Pudding actually does want to help Sanji and the others escape. And then they're doing their respective task. also, we get back to the mirror world. Sadly, it was not as invigorating a part of the chapter as it was last week. Sparrow is, contacting his brother and, giving the situation. He's like, yeah, I survived barely. I'm with Mama. We're chasing the ship. They're a bunch of cowards. And Katakuri's like, yeah. That was Sparrow. It's like, yeah, it was pathetic end for for Pedro. It's like, you hearing me, Straw Hat? And Katakuri's like, hey, Brule, you're gonna sleep all day. And she gets up and is like, what, brother? It's like, the soldiers are all stuck here while you're asleep, so why don't you go burn down the ship, find a mirror and whatnot. So because apparently it had been undamaged, even though Big Mom bit off the back end or part of the ship. Luffy wasn't happy about this, but Brulee's all happy to serve, or else she'll be killed. And two more siblings, Joss Carpone and Moss Carpone, the 29th daughter and the 34th son, respectively. They're both long necks, and they found a mirror, and it's like, we found one, and Brulee's like, ha ha ha, to see the Straw Hats be crushed by Mama will be so lovely, especially when they're being terrified and confused by the fire. And obviously Luffy isn't going to take this standing or laying down, and he tries to destroy the mirror that they found. It does not work. And it's like, don't lay a hand on them, and well, sadly Katakuri isn't going to let him do that, so he starts attacking. I thought this was going to be a one-on-one fight. Then they did the two long neck siblings do a weird crossed necks thing. That was something about it was just unnerving a bit. Katakuri goes into what I thought was stamp Gatling or something, but I don't think so, because he never says it. But then again, he doesn't actually name his attacks. He just saw Luffy do it, and then he's making his own. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to make you stop laying a hand on my brothers and sisters. And Luffy starts noticing mirror fragments and stuff, and he's trying to find a fragment that leads to the Sunny to inform them to break all the mirrors. Eventually one does make it through, and Nami picks it up, and it showed poor Brook in the background being blasted and falling off the higher deck. She's like, what's going on, Luffy? And it's like, there's a few more mirrors on board, you gotta destroy them. They're in the men's quarters and in the bathroom. You gotta break them to smithereens. And it's like, what are you saying? You won't make it back. Don't worry, I'll find a way out. And then Brook goes into the bathroom, and there's flaming arrows coming through. Joss Capote is an archer, apparently. I didn't notice it during my live reaction, but she's holding a bow. So they're shooting flaming arrows through the mirror world, and there's cannon fire from the sea. Things ain't looking good. And obviously Luffy's not happy about that, but Katakuri doesn't care and just stomps him into the ground again. And Nami's trying to, it's like, Luffy, are you okay? And it's like, just don't worry about me. And everyone going to the ship, follow me. Okay, so that's I'm not sure who actually said that. I think that was some of the soldiers, but they're not going to be able to be stopped, obviously, which the mirrors have to be small, so I don't know how they're going to really get through them. And then Luffy's like, I need to focus on these guys, or on this guy, speaking of Katakuri. And then Nami tries to inform everyone to break the mirrors, and little scared Carrot's like, we can't outrun that. And then we see a giant tsunami homie, and Big Mom's riding on top of it, which, how any of that is possible, don't ask me. Did she make this one way before, or which does bring up some of the theories of how Sparrow's candy wasn't being dissolved by the ocean and everything, is that it's probably not actual ocean water, it's probably juice or something mixed in there. and there's a giant tsunami coming to crash down on the ship, and Nami's like, Luffy, I'm sorry, we're done for. And the chapter ends with Big Mom laughing, Luffy looking on scared, and it just... They could probably use a coup de burst to get out if they can do it quick enough, but which would then speed up the time, and I'm sure that cake is going to have to be done even quicker if that's the case, because it's like, okay, they just cut the distance in half. So yeah, don't see this. I know ways of how it could work, but then that makes the whole situation a little bit more stressful. So yeah, and also how Luffy might be able to fight Katakuri to some degree is if he does apply Red Hawk, which he's only used in one version of the attack. He's never applied it to any of the other gears. I think it's because of the fact of how Red Hawk works. It's a straight punch, so when he pulls back, the fires extinguish themselves. So he can't do any other attacks than a one single straight punch. Excuse me. So he could do that with, at best, like Giant Pistol is one. You have Kong Gun or King Kong Gun. Those are probably the only three attacks that he can use that might actually work with that additional damage dealing of Red Hawk. So, yeah. That's just my thoughts, and he might be able to beat, or at least kind of level the playing field with Katakuri a bit, because he'll be burning the mochi instead of it just like breaking off or something. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Anyway, I still give the chapter a 4. I almost want to give it a 5 or 4.5. I almost said a 5, but anyway, overall it was a good chapter. The pacing was all right. The plot devices, I see some being a problem more than others, but, you know, they can be worked out. Oda is Goda, after all, you know. But, yeah, overall, good chapter. Anyway, thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Kishlings, roll out.